Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're taking a core piece of project management theory and turning it into something you can actually use, a consultant-level framework for mastering stakeholder engagement. Let's get into it. All right, let's start with a quote straight from the source, the PMBOK guide itself, and it's a big one. It says, stakeholder satisfaction isn't just a nice to have, it's a key project objective. Think about that for a second. It's right up there with your budget and your timeline. So you could be on time, under budget, but if your key stakeholders aren't happy, by this definition, your project is failing. This really shifts your whole perspective, doesn't it? It's not a side task, it's a core goal. So that leads us to the big question, right? How do you actually do this? How do you go from just, blasting out emails to your stakeholders to truly and actively managing their engagement? This is the absolute game changer. It's the difference between a project you have to drag across the finish line versus one that's got so much support it practically pulls itself forward. And that's exactly what we're going to break down today, using the official process from the PMBOK guide. Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll cover why this is so critical. Then we'll define the manage process itself. After that, we'll dive into the inputs, basically your prep work. Then the tools and techniques, your playbook. We'll look at the outputs, the results you're aiming for, and finally, we'll tie it all together in a continuous loop. Let's jump in. All right, part 1, the engagement imperative. So first things first, let's really get clear on why this process is so important. Why even bother with a formal framework for this stuff? And here's the bottom line. Getting this right can literally be the one thing that decides if your project succeeds or completely fails. Let's be really clear, this is not a soft skill. This is a hardcore management discipline. When you nail it, you're not just communicating, you're actively tearing down resistance, you're preventing roadblocks before they even appear, and you're building an army of champions for your project. But if you get it wrong, well, it's one of the fastest ways to kill a project. Okay, section 2. Let's get into the weeds of the manage process itself. What is it really, and where does it fit in the grand scheme of things? So here's the official definition from the PMBOK. I want you to pay close attention to the action words here: communicating, working with, addressing issues, and fostering involvement. See what's going on? This isn't passive. It's not just about sending a weekly status report and calling it a day. This is an active, hands-on job. It's about building real relationships and making sure everyone's on the same page. Honestly, this is the kind of work that separates a basic project administrator from a true project leader. And this is so important for context. Managing engagement doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's actually step 3 in a 4-part life cycle. First, you figure out who your stakeholders are. Then you make a plan for how to engage them. And then comes our focus today, step 3, you actually do it. You execute the plan. This is where all that strategy hits the pavement. It's the action phase. Okay, on to part 3, the inputs. Let's think of this like a consultant's strategic briefing. You would never, ever walk into a client meeting unprepared, right? Same thing here. These inputs are the essential intel you need before you act. So your intelligence dossier, if you will, comes from 2 main sources. On one side, you have your high-level plans. The communications plan, the risk plan, the engagement plan. These are your strategic documents. They lay out the long-term game plan, the who, what, when, and how of your engagement strategy. Then, on the other side, you've got your live project documents, the change log, the issue log, the stakeholder register. This is your tactical, up-to-the-minute intel from the front lines. It tells you what's happening right now that you need to deal with. You need both, the strategy and the real-time data, to be effective. All right, part 4. Now this is the real core of our explainer today. We've got our briefing. Now it's time to open up the playbook. We're going to do a deep dive into the actual tools and techniques you'll use to get the job done. The PM book gives us these 5 main categories of tools. And yeah, they're all important. You need good judgment, you need to communicate, you need well-run meetings. But if you want to know where the real magic happens, where the best project managers really separate themselves from the pack, it's right there in the middle. Interpersonal and team skills. That's where you get your leverage. And let's really hammer this point home. Your plans, your charts, your documents, they're all essential, but they don't manage people. You do. And these interpersonal skills, they're like force multipliers. They take all your planning and amplify your influence, allowing you to navigate the messy, complex, human side of a project. So let's break down a few of the most critical skills in this category. First up, conflict management. And here's the big mindset shift. Most people see conflict and think, okay, I need to shut this down or I need to win this argument. A great PM sees conflict as an opportunity. Your job isn't to be the judge and pick a winner. It's to be a facilitator. You have to bring people together, dig beneath the surface to find out what both sides really need, and then guide them to a solution that works for the project. Remember, the goal isn't for you to be right, it's to get to the right outcome and keep everyone on board. Next up is negotiation. And when you hear that word, you probably picture some intense, high-stakes boardroom deal. But for a project manager, that's not really it. Negotiation is happening all the time, in small ways. Every time you clarify a requirement, every time you discuss a deadline, every time you explain a risk, you're negotiating. You're constantly working to align everyone's expectations and build consensus. It's less about winning a single big argument and more about preventing 1,000 small misunderstandings. Okay, now this one is super interesting because it's so real. Political awareness. The PMBOK is basically telling you, hey, every organization is political. You need to understand how it really works. This isn't about being sneaky or playing politics. It's about being smart. It's about knowing who the real influencers are, not just the ones on the org chart. Who has the ear of the sponsor? Which department's opinion carries more weight? Knowing this landscape is absolutely crucial for navigating your project to success. And finally, let's talk about meetings. We all know how easily a meeting can become a huge waste of time. But when used correctly, they're a powerful strategic tool. The key is to be crystal clear on the purpose of every single meeting. As you can see here, a kickoff meeting is about building commitment. A status update is about managing expectations. An issue resolution meeting is, well, for resolving issues. You have to use the right tool for the job. Don't try to make a decision in a status update meeting. Be deliberate, be focused, and your meetings become an asset, not a chore. All right, section 5, the outputs. So, you've done your homework, you've used your playbook. What's the result? What do you actually get out of all this? Let's talk about the tangible proof that your strategy is working. So, what does success look like? Well, first, you might get change requests. And I know what you're thinking. Change requests are bad, but actually they can be a great sign. It means your stakeholders are so engaged, they're actively thinking about how to make the project better. That's way better than silence. You'll also see updates to your main project plans and documents. Your issue log will show that issues aren't just being identified, they're being resolved. Your stakeholder register gets updated with new information. This isn't just paperwork, it's the living record of a healthy, adaptive project. And here's the big takeaway for outputs. This is not busy work. These documents, the change requests, the updated plans, are the official record of your project's journey. They are the proof that you listened to stakeholders, that you aligned on a path forward, and that the project evolved based on that collaboration. It's what makes the whole process transparent and traceable. Okay, last section. Let's zoom out and put this all together. Because the most important thing to understand is that this is not a one-and-done task. It's a continuous, dynamic loop. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. The old way is on the left. You just push information out. You report on what already happened, and you react to problems. The new way, active engagement, is a totally different ballgame. It's a constant feedback loop. You're not looking backward, you're looking forward, anticipating issues. You're not reacting, you're proactively building support. And everything you learn in this managed phase, it feeds directly into the next one, which is monitoring your engagement to see if it's even working. And that's the beauty of it. It creates this powerful cycle of continuous improvement. You manage, you monitor, you learn, you adjust your plan, and you go again. This is what keeps your strategy sharp and effective, not just at the start of the project, but all the way through to the end, even when things inevitably change. So, I want to leave you with this one final thought to take away. Take a hard look at your own projects. Is your stakeholder engagement just a checklist of communications you send out? Or is it a truly strategic, managed process that's actively driving your project towards success? Really think about that, because the answer could change everything. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.